I mean, that one streamer was getting salty in the DLC, so... Okay, now the cannon works, so you can short that. Okay, I get how this...
You know, because of the fusing thing and all that, does that mean these rabbit pipes were a fusion between a rabbit and more pipes? Is that like what we're supposed to be implying?
Guess it is. Defeat all.
After this, you can backtrack to the one thing.
Time to pull together everything you've learned so far. Attack, movement, team jump, and dash. Don't forget about cover. You can also switch heroes anytime using L and R, and between attack and move using Z. Okay, so I get how... Movement. Oh, yeah, so...
Yes.
And you can also... I get it now. Dash him, jump him, land here, surprise attack him, dash him, jump her. I think that's a good.
Yeah, because that will get... Can you... Yeah, because that kills him, and now you can start moving Rabid Peach over to the last guy. That actually worked beautifully.
Kick him over. Kick her over for using him. Smack him in the face! I think I'm doing decent here.
I said that actually worked very well.
You jerk.
Also, something else, like, kind of amazing was this game is that the amount of damage you take, it actually doesn't affect the ranks. The only things that affect the ranks
are... So... Now I'm hiding, but that means...
Shoot and...
How beautifully can I...
you might... Oh, actually you can. It's a 50% shot. Might as well take it. But you can move him and basically try the same thing. Actually, no, you can put a Rabbid Luigi right around the enemy so that he should have, 100.
Exactly.
Well, I was going to say, the interesting thing was...
I'm tactically planning. By kicking people.
The interesting thing was this, is to get a perfect on a mission, you just need to beat it within the turn limit without anyone dying. It does not matter how much damage they take, as long as they don't die, and as long as you get it in the turn limit, you are good.
We can come back for rings.
I'm just pointing it out. Don't think someone getting, you know...
Mario, the creature with the headset, got away, but I suppose you did clean up his mess. And being a plan of my word, it looks like I owe you a reward. Our good friend Rabbid Luigi and Rabbid Peach helped as well. Yeah, great.
That's nasty.
Okay, here. What's up, Barn?
Now go back for the for the one cannon.
I think it's just a shortcut?
No, a lot of the optional stuff, usually the optional things are more concept art, or sometimes they can be...
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Sometimes there are weapons. I'll take it that was just concept art, but still good to check. Like I said, you sometimes get valuable things.
Anyhow.
Anyway, to give this commentary a point, as I said before, I fucking hate permadeath in games.
Mm-hmm.
I feel it's objectively bad design.
It is.
Because it leads to the game being too lopsided, because you...
How in the hell?
If I turn the camera... Just...
Do I just walk over?
You think?
Damn it.
Oh. Actually, that is really simple. Would you look at that? You don't have the ability to move the box yet, but... Yeah.
Going back!
Anyway, like I said, the reason I think permadeath doesn't add anything to a game, some people say it's like, oh, it leads to interesting stories, or like makes the game more interesting or something. First of all, I feel if the game has any form of RNG elements, then it's unfair for you to get screwed over with permadeath because the game just arbitrarily didn't hit the thing that had like a 2% chance to miss. And second of all, it leads to with permadeath, it basically leads to you will either A, end up overpowered at the end because enemies don't really progress that much because every mission has to be designed to be beatable with units you have not worked on. Yes, I'm kind of specifically talking about Fire Emblem here. Or B, the game is a huge obnoxious pain in the ass because it basically, you essentially have to keep a small group of characters alive through the whole game. And if you don't reset, you're fucked.
Mm-hmm. We've said stuff like this before because RNG, I feel, ruins...
RNG does not make good difficulty. I feel if the game's difficulty comes from this thing might not always happen, then it's badly designed. That's one of the reasons Oh, bonus stage. Also, hey look, blue coins.
Sean had always tried to make an argument that, like, RNG cannot equate to difficulty because his logic was, how can you say it's difficult when it's random, but that's what makes it difficult? No amount of planning in the world or foresight can basically have you predict or deal with, oh, I have a 5% chance that I might die. And what happens when the 5% chance comes up?
Again, that's a reason I really don't like a lot of roguelikes, is because with so much of the game being left up to chance of generating, it's like, when you die, is it my fault because I'm bad at the game, or did I just get shit items that don't mesh well? And you also have, to be fair, a bunch of, roguelikes, at least from what I have seen, have started to balance around this, but sometimes, depending on the enemies and stuff in the game, you might actually lead to a dead game. These people I was watching play The Binding of Isaac years ago, now granted this was the game's, like, one of its first versions, so this should be fixed by now. There was an enemy type that basically worked like the red skeletons from Castlevania, where once you kill it, their dead body, you then had to destroy or else they would regenerate. Because of the upgrades that the people picked up, their attack was too slow, so they couldn't kill these things. Anyway, Toad and Toadette.
Okay. So, like, that's always my stick on RPGs, where I consider RNG unfair difficulty, and Sean's always argued, but how is it unfair? It might not happen. That's what makes it unfair. You can't account for it.
That's like, another thing. It's one of those, I don't want to bitch about it because I feel like I do that a lot, but Bravely Default I have very mixed feelings on, because it has a bunch of, like, good ideas and shit that I really feel should just be fucking standard in most RPGs, like the ability to just turn random encounters off. But a problem with most of the bosses in that game is that a lot of them feel like they come down to... Because most shit in Bravely Default actually does not cost magic.
She's taking her cosplay a bit too seriously, I'm afraid.
Yes. Like... Anyway, I feel like most of the job bosses in Bravely Default had a problem to where, because...
Oh god, don't get me started on that!
Because most things in the game actually don't cost magic, and the shit that does the game, like the bosses have infinite magic, great design thereby. The way most of them felt like the only way you would win is essentially, will the game just be a dumbass and not constantly spam its overpowered move? Like, the prime example I will always use, because this is what I had ended up happening in my playthrough, when fighting the Dark Knight, I think it was the second time you fight him, basically the Dark Knight class in that game, its skills do a bunch of... They're very powerful, like, dark element and physical skills, but most of them end up costing your own HP as, like, a compensation to this. But you also have a skill that is essentially the amount of HP you have lost. You will just do that as damage, because the boss has boss health in that. He will basically get to a point where he does 9 max damage just casually. He will start doing like 4/9 of damage just casually. And I lost several times on that fight because the game just kept spamming that move. The only time I won was when the game was basically a dumbass and kept spamming the moves that constantly drop his HP. And one of the moves the Dark Knight has that does like more damage based on the lower HP you have, once your HP gets so low, you like can't use that move again, so the game would just be wasting turns trying to do that. So that was how I ended up killing him. The game just became a dumbass and just kept trying to use something it couldn't.
Let's see, what are 25 to 35, medium range 10 sows, coverage damage low. 25 to 35, bouncy damage.
It's not as expensive.
Honey damage.
I would recommend, like,
20% Ziggy, 10% honey.
To explain this right now, the bounce, basically, the way that status effect works, it essentially, when an enemy takes damage, they'll be hit with a shit ton. Okay, you can just look at an in-game effect. I was explaining it for the audience.
The damage dealt when a weapon's super effect is triggered. Bounce sends combatants hurling backwards through the air, even sailing out of bounds.
Yeah, you can knock them off of the map, and it deals damage when you do that. And honey basically works like freezing to where they're stuck in place, so they can't move for a turn.
Both of these are fucking awesome.
Yeah, part of me would say go for the bounce, because, like, I believe also if you hit an enemy with a bounce, you can bounce them into another enemy and they both take damage. But that does more damage against Ziggies, and that's what we're going to be fighting a lot, so I'd actually recommend getting that one. And now what? The next mission isn't going to have any Ziggies in it. It's like, god damn it, game. That chunked like all of our money, so...
Well, chunk like half.
So my point is, I don't think we could buy a weapon for the other characters.
So, and I'm also just... yeah. You can't. So...
Wait, hold on. You press on that screen to swap to the other characters, but...
What?
go to the weapon select, press L and R. Now you're on Rabbid Peach's weapon.
Oh yeah.
But we don't have enough for either of them.
Damn it all. RPG problem.
Hey, you can always replay earlier missions to get money if you're just 1 or 2 short on something.
For now it's the beginning of an RPG, so...
Technically a strategy game.
You know what I mean!
But anyway...
Strategy RPG!
But anyway, like I said, back to the main point of... Again, I feel a lot of the bosses in, like, Bravely Default, and the same also goes for Fire Emblem. I feel the games are, like, a bit too RNG dependent to be fun or feel like they're rewarding, because, again, in Fire Emblem, you could play exactly right, sending every unit in the perfect spot to get the perfect, like, counterplay, but if the game just decides you missed, or just decides the enemy gets it, it was down.
Oh. Good.
Also, notice what the music here is.
We've talked about the music with Peach's Castle.
Yeah.
Wait, I get a weapon?
That might have been art for a weapon.
We've talked about RNG a lot of times because, unlike Sean and Brian, I think RNG is a very poor example of difficulty and should count as difficulty because you can't control it. That's the whole argument.
And like, that's why I can't remember what game it was, and I wish I could, because I would like to look more into it. I brought up the roguelike thing. There was one roguelike. The game was actually stage-based, so the layout of the levels would be randomly generated, but you could actually save between them. So because of that... So, because you could, actually, like, save between them and stuff, it basically cut down on a bunch of, like, the random nonsense because, you have the ability to save. And because you have the ability to save, I believe you keep your upgrades in between the stages.
Mm-hmm.
I also think it did, the way it works is you don't, like, when you find your upgrades and shit, you didn't immediately pick them up. It was like you find them to buy them for later, so you can basically pick
the other thing Sean and Brian always say, like, because you brought up, like, Fire Emblem and Permadeath. Permadeath was removed somewhat in the Fire Emblem, and Sean and Brian always, but it's...
You can't do anything here. Yeah. This is like World 4 or 5, and the game just, like a good game with progression, it locks you off from going to something so fucking late.
Mm-hmm. They always go on about, like, casual people did not say Fire Emblem, even though they did, because the push for the casual was extra sales numbers.
Also, is Mario doing the fucking Naruto run?
A little bit.
God damn it.
I circled the whole map. He is kind of doing the Naruto run. Which reminded me of the other day I'd watched this meme collection of Nintendo memes, and someone, because the villager and Isabelle in the Smash run like that, so they just put the Naruto whistling music over it. And just also checking out. Okay, so yeah. That's what I thought. Look over there. These clever rabbits have outfitted a cannon so that it can launch us back to the ancient garden. This comes in handy as our mysterious helper gave me the power to warp to Peach's castle, and the cannon can send us back to the front. The ability to return to Peach's castle will has even been added to the vault. Okay. It's time for the question of the day and my overall thoughts on the topic. So, anyway, do you get the point we were trying to make about RNG? I know I've asked a question like this before, but I find this topic to be incredibly interesting. In short, the reason we argue that RNG is terrible difficulty, no amount of planning or foresight can easily prepare you for something that might randomly happen or not happen. Accounting for something random means you're accounting for the fact that a dice roll determines what happens, and that is incredibly stupid difficulty because in those times where the random thing happens, that could entirely screw you over through a random chance that the events played out in this terrible scenario. Some people argue that you should be able to plan ahead for every facet of every scenario, but the average video game player, unless you played a game a fuck ton of times, would never be able to easily plan out every RNG scenario ever, because usually games like this, where a lot of RNG can take place at any given time, you can't easily account for every turn and all the different facets of RNG that could or could not happen, because the battle could swing in your favor, or it could absolutely swing in the favor of the game, causing you to lose. And at this point, I'm rambling, but I really do hate people that miss the point of RNG being terrible difficulty, because randomness is, by definition, even if it's somewhat programmed under an algorithm, just an unexpected change to the status quo, and that can be incredibly hard to account for because, it happens randomly. Anyway, I am rambling. You can leave your thoughts, opinions, and answers in the comments, or you can leave them on social media. All my social media links, as well as my Discord link, are in the video description. Now, as always, I need to be a shield for a minute if you subscribe to the channel, and if you follow me on social media. That really helps our communities grow. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I will see you all next time. Good night, everybody.